All right, Larry Krueger here at Levi Stadium after 49ers training camp practice number 10. Beautiful day down here in Santa Clara. It was kind of some fog cover early in the morning, so it was kind of one of the cooler days of practice. But let's go through day 10 and what stood out at practice and from 49ers training camp practice number 10. Now, first they start with individual drills. I honed in on the defensive line today, and I thought Evan Anderson really looked quick in the one-on-one drills and some of the D-line drills that they were doing. And then Gross-Matos also is looking really, really good. Two new guys on that defensive front. Matos, I think, is going to be able to play inside and outside. Evan Anderson is about 330 pounds, it looks like, and he really moves exceptionally well for 330. I'm really eager to see Gross-Matos, Evan Anderson, and Shaquille Brown in preseason action once a week from now when the games start. I think those are three guys that, to me, look like they could contribute to the 49er defensive line this year. Brown looks incredibly powerful. I mean, Anderson is just, you just don't see guys who are that big move that well. I love what I've seen from Evan Anderson. And then Shaquille Brown is just, really strong lower body. I think he's going to be a tough guy to uproot out of there if you're in the run game. I think he's going to be able to anchor well in the run game. So those three defensive linemen stood out, mostly Anderson, but a little bit of Shaquille Brown and a little bit of Gross-Matos. Then we got into the team drills. Dominic Purdy continues to start at right guard. So that's a good sign. Purdy has been running with the ones at right guard really in this camp. I think there's a very good chance that Dominic Purdy might be a plug and play right guard. He might be a guy who steps in, week one against the Jets and doesn't miss a beat. And that would be absolutely exactly what the doctor ordered for the 49ers. Because if you really look at their defensive line, their offensive line, they need a little bit more. They need a little bit more juice, I think, in their offensive line. They don't move people at center in the run game. They don't move people like they could or should, I think, at right guard in the run game. In the interior, even the left guard spot with Banks, I would love to see the 49ers upgrade a little bit in the interior, and Purdy might be an opportunity for exactly that, for a guy to step in at right guard and maybe be a plug-and-play guy. I kind of like the idea of Purdy starting at guard and Feliciano coming off the bench, then Feliciano starting at right guard and Purdy coming off the bench. Last year we saw Burford and Feliciano share right guard. Burford's now out for 3 or 4 weeks with a broken hand. That is not going to require surgery, by the way, so that's good news. But Purdy has been starting at right guard, and he continued to today. A couple other things that stood out today. I thought Cody Schrader had 4 or 5 really nice runs. He just keeps those legs churning. He doesn't look like a ton, but he runs with a compact style. He's got good leg drive. He seems to be a guy who has already impressed his teammates. You've heard Kittle single him out. You've heard McCaffrey single him out, and a couple other players as well have singled out Cody Schrader as a guy who's really looked good to them. D. Winters made a nice play today against Taylor, the free agent who came over from Green Bay, Patrick Taylor. Winters made a nice stop in the run game. I thought Brandon Allen had a beautiful crosser to Pearsall in the team drills. I thought that was impressive. J.P. Mason continues to really impress out here. Every single day, this guy's running with conviction. He's running with power, with great body lean. Who didn't look good to me today was Josh Dobbs. He just isn't the guy. I don't know what else to say. He holds the ball too long. His deep ball has no zip on it. It just has a flutter. He seems like it doesn't come off his hand with any consistency. He doesn't exude a lot of confidence in the way he displays himself on the practice field. He seems like he processes slowly. He holds the ball a long time. When he goes to throw it deep, it doesn't seem like he's ready to throw it deep. It kind of it doesn't jump off his hand. To me, Dobbs has not been very impressive. If you said to me, how do you look at the quarterbacks on this team? Well, clearly Brock's the one. Clearly Brandon Allen has outplayed Josh Dobbs in this camp. And I think Tanner Mordecai is probably better than either Dobbs or Allen. And I've said this a few times. I asked Brock Purdy today after practice about his early impressions of Mordecai, and you can tell by what he said that he likes Tanner Mordecai, that he thinks Tanner Mordecai is pretty good. I think he followed up his comments on Mordecai by saying he can rip it. I see the same thing, man. I see a guy who's played a lot of football, who's smart, who's competitive as hell, who has 4.46 speed, and is accurate in the short and intermediate, more accurate in the short and intermediate than Dobbs and Allen. He looks better than those guys, and those guys have been in the league for years. And Allen has been in this offense for now a couple seasons. So I like Tanner Mordecai. I think Tanner Mordecai is the second best quarterback on this team. I think the preseason is going to prove it. I think Brock Purdy kind of told you what he thought of Tanner Mordecai. We'll put some of those comments out later today. But Brock Purdy knows ball. And when I asked him about Tanner Mordecai, you could tell he likes Tanner Mordecai. He thinks Tanner Mordecai is a pretty good quarterback. I do too. In fact, I'll say it right here for everybody to hear. I think Tanner Mordecai is clearly the 49ers' second best quarterback. We'll see how the rest of this camp goes. We'll see how the preseason goes, but that's my evaluation. I think I know what I'm talking about. I think Brandon Allen ain't bad as a backup, a 2-3. Dobbs is not bad as a 2-3. I don't think they're as good as Mordecai. I think Mordecai's better than those guys. I think Mordecai's going to be the number 2 quarterback. He had a couple nice pass plays today where he ripped it across the middle of the field. Purdy had a really nice pass to Ricky Pearsall against Demo Lenore, who's looking great in this camp, by the way. Demo Lenore is just awesome. He's going to have a great year. Excuse me, this is probably going to be Demo's last year with the Niners. Why? Because Demo's going to make so much money that he's probably going to price himself out. But Schrader had some nice runs. Mason had some nice runs. Pearsall is running some good routes. Jawan Jennings looks good out here. Purdy hit him on a pass in the move the ball drill. He had a nice little crosser as well to Chris Conley. Purdy did. He threw a dime in the flat to J.P. Mason, just a perfect dime, and then hit Juice on a little whip route. I thought we saw a really nice – Allen went deep to Conley, and it was incomplete. It was great coverage by Samuel Womack III down the field on Conley. I thought Womack had outstanding coverage on that one. Purdy had an incompletion to Pearsall in the middle of the field where Pearsall just stopped running his route. There's going to be a little bit of that on the practice field. In fact, I asked Brock after practice because, we'll get to it in a second here, but there's been some rumors about Brandon Aiyuk being traded, and I didn't want to reference the trade, but I wanted to ask Brock, how long, if you took a new receiver and put him on the field, how long does it take before you're in lockstep, before you're comfortable, before you're before it's up to the standards that the Niners and Shanahan have for their offense. And he thought about it. That's what I love about Brock. He always thinks about the questions. He thinks about the questions and he gives you a thoughtful answer. And he said I think he said a couple of weeks. He said it probably would take a couple of weeks if a veteran receiver walked in the door and he had no reps and no knowledge of Purdy, and Purdy had no knowledge of him. Purdy thinks it would take a couple weeks because of the complexity of the offense and all the different routes and all the different communication that needs to go on. A couple of weeks before Brock would feel really comfortable with that new receiver. We'll hit on why I asked that here in a minute. Dobbs, I thought, had a great deep ball to to Ronnie Bell, who made a nice catch and then landed on the ball and kind of lost his air. Ronnie Bell's playing well in this camp. I don't know if there's a roster spot for Ronnie Bell, but he definitely is starting to look good in this camp, and he made a number of catches over the last couple of days, one on a deep ball today from Dobbs. Dobbs also went deep to Danny Gray, and it was just too much loft on the ball. It fluttered. It went out of bounds. It was inaccurate. I mean, Dobbs down the field is he's a coin flip at best. Purdy took a sack from Bosa on one play and then continued the play and found Kittle across the middle. Purdy had a nice pass play to JJ in the middle of the field. JJ dropped it. Mordecai had a beautiful pass to Juszczyk in the flat, and then he threw a ball to Patrick Taylor in the flat that was absolutely a dead strike. That's what I'm saying. Mordecai is playing on time and throwing the ball with accuracy. In a lot of ways, he reminds me of what Brock looked like a couple of years ago in camp, where he's just mastering all these drills. It's nothing overwhelming. It's not like you're sitting there going, oh my God, get him out there. But you're looking at the end of each drill and you're like, Tanner Mordecai threw the ball better than Dobbs. He threw the ball better than Allen. He threw the ball more accurately than those guys. And that's what I've been seeing in this camp. Now, there is a story that is out right now. Matt Mayoko was not here today. He has been in Ohio this weekend covering Patrick Willis's induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So he wasn't here today, but he did put out on NBC Sports Bay Area an article about how Brandon Aiyuk, how it's becoming increasingly a possibility that Brandon Aiyuk could be traded. Mayoko said the Niners could trade Aiyuk, that he will not be dealt strictly for 2025 or 2026 draft picks, but that if a team came along and offered a proven wide receiver in addition to draft choices, it sounds like the 49ers may be getting ready to bite on a trade. Cam Marino of NFLDraftBuzz.com says that Cleveland and New England are the two teams that are closest to the Niners right now as far as talking to them about a potential Brandon Aiyuk trade. And the speculation is that maybe Amari Cooper, who's 30 years old and a free agent at the end of the year, could be coming back to the Niners in a trade if he goes to Cleveland, in addition to a draft choice, because, as I said, Amari Cooper is 30, 4 years older than Aiyuk, and is set to be a free agent at the end of the year. And the Niners would probably use Cooper and let him walk at the end of the year, which, that doesn't make Niner fans thrilled. You're going to trade a 26-year-old receiver who's a foundation piece who you invested a first-round draft choice in, and you're going to get a 30-year-old receiver who's a free agent at the end of the year who you're going to let walk. I don't know if that's going to excite Niner fans. In fact, I think Niner fans will not be excited by that unless the draft pick is a Cleveland Browns first-round pick, or maybe it's Amari Cooper and a second-round pick. New England is intriguing because they might be the worst team in pro football. And any pick, if you get a first-round pick from New England, that could be the first pick in the draft. So there's no chance that Elliott Wolf, the GM, the son of Ron Wolf, the GM of the Patriots, is going to trade a first-round draft choice. But the name Kendrick Bourne has been thrown out from New England. Could you get Kendrick Bourne and a second-round pick from New England? And then if you did get Kendrick Bourne and a second-round pick, that could be the 33rd pick in the draft. The Patriots easily could be the worst team in pro football this year. So, if you're a Niner fan, does that excite you? Aiyuk to Cleveland for Amari Cooper and a second-round pick? Doesn't excite me that much. Aiyuk to New England for Kendrick Bourne and a second-round pick. It doesn't excite me too much. Bourne's another guy who's a little bit older. But Mayoko says, it appears, here's the quote from the article, it appears more likely than ever that the 49ers are willing to make a trade for Brandon Aiyuk. Amari Cooper in 2023, for those of you who keep track of this stuff, 72 catches, 1,250 yards, 5 touchdowns. He's had 7 1,000-yard seasons in 9 years in the NFL. He's got great ball skills. He's got better ball skills than Brandon Aiyuk. He's just not as dynamic. I don't think he runs as well. I don't think he's as much of a vertical threat as Aiyuk is at this point. And obviously he's older. He's got tremendous ball skills, though. Amari Cooper, catching the ball from Brock Purdy could be a very prolific duo this year. But then if he walks at the end of the year, then all you have is a pick. I don't know. The interesting New England names for me would be guys like Jabril Peppers, Demario Douglas, who's another wide receiver, albeit a smaller slot receiver, but a good one in that at that. Christian Gonzalez, is a top corner. If you could add Christian Gonzalez or Jabril Peppers to the secondary, and you could get Bourne, and you could get a second-round pick, now I'd be happy. I'd take Bourne in a second if I could get a defensive back or maybe a Judon, an extra edge rusher. Maybe there's a deal to be had there with New England. I don't believe they would trade their first-round pick. If New England would trade their first-round pick, I think John Lynch would absolutely jump at it. Why? Because that could be the first pick in the draft. I mean, it literally could. You want your left tackle to replace Trent Williams. You probably get it next year in the draft if you get New England's first-round pick. So that was the story that Mayoko had. It sounds to me, and it wouldn't surprise me if the Niners said to Brandon Aiyuk, "Hey, you want to be traded to somebody who will pay you big bucks? Fine. We'll trade you to one of the teams that's going to pay you big bucks as long as they'll satisfy us in a trade." And I bet you Brandon Ayuk's like, "Hey, I don't want to go to Cleveland. I don't want to go to New England." Because if he's smart, and I think that he is, I think he knows that that's banishment. You go to Cleveland, Cleveland doesn't win. Go to New England, post Brady, post Belichick, they don't win. They're not going to win. So do you really want to be on a losing team you're going to get a big bag from the Niners. Would you rather get the biggest bag and be on a losing team or get a big bag and go to the Super Bowl? I'm starting to not understand the Aiyuk mindset here, but Mayoko is, it was a report by Cam Marino yesterday from NFL Draft Buzz that Cleveland and New England are knocking on the Niners' door. And Mayoko today wrote an article saying the Niners could trade Aiyuk. It wouldn't be strictly for 2025 draft picks, but it might be for a proven wide receiver and draft picks. And the names that are thrown out are Kendrick Bourne and Amari Cooper. I'd rather have Demario Douglas or Jerry Jeudy. I mean, if it really came right down to it, I'm trading a great player. I'm trading a great player in Brandon Aiyuk. And all I would want if I was John Lynch is a great player in return, preferably on a rookie deal. So if I were John Lynch and I was trading Brandon Aiyuk to Cleveland, I want Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I'll take Amari Cooper as well, but I want a great young player that's good. I'm trading you a 26-year-old all-pro wide receiver. I want a great young player. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is a great young player. That's what I would want. As far as what else, I'm flexible after that, but I'm trading a great young player. I want a great young player. If I'm trading, and that's to Cleveland. If I'm trading Aiyuk to New England, I want Christian Gonzalez and Demario Douglas. I want a receiver that's better than Kendrick Bourne, that's more dynamic. I want a corner that I can use right now, that can help me win games right now. And I want like a third or fourth round pick in addition to that. And if they don't like that, then that's it. Let them play on the fifth-year option, and we'll shut down the trade talks right here and now. So if I'm John Lynch and I'm trading Aiyuk to Cleveland, I want Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. And if I'm trading him to New England, I want Christian Gonzalez, or I want that first-round pick. I want a really great pick. If I'm going to trade Aiyuk and I'm getting deferred compensation means I get paid more. Nobody's like, well, I'll take $1 million, but if you defer it, I'll take $500,000. No, that's not the way it works. You're paying me $1 million. Oh, you want to defer it? Now you're paying me $2 million. You want the 49ers to take deferred gratification in the form of a 2025 draft choice? Fine. Give the 49ers a 2025 draft choice that would make them excited. New England's first-round pick would do that. All right, a couple other last notes. Jake Moody was perfect today, made a 38-yard field goal. He's only missed 3 field goals all summer. That was fun to watch. We talked to Nick Sorensen after practice. He says Diemo Lenore has been outstanding. He says that Winters and Graham, the 2 young linebackers, are really getting better. I told you Brock Purdy talked to us afterwards. He said he was very impressed by Tanner Mordecai. Said it takes a couple weeks to get comfortable with a new wide receiver. And there were a couple football notes in the division that I think are worth mentioning. Arizona lost defensive end B.J. Ojolari, their outside rush guy, tore his ACL. So that's a bad break for Arizona. They lose B.J. Ojolari for the year. And then the Rams lose Jonah Jackson, the guard they signed from the Lions, for the rest of the preseason with a shoulder injury, and they've already lost Alaric Jackson, their offensive tackle. He's out, so the Rams are having serious injuries along that offensive line. So just a couple notes from other camps around the NFC West. All right, that's going to do it for us on this update. You're fully updated here in Santa Clara. We'll be back here tomorrow. Tomorrow is the players' off day on Monday. We will get a chance, though, to sit down with the offensive and defensive coaches, and we'll put out a number of those videos. And to me, guys, that's some of the best stuff that we get all summer. So look for that tomorrow on the Krug Show. But that does it for us. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week. Get the brisket chili. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. And we're also this video is brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're in Pacific Grove along the Monterey Peninsula. Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles, a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.